Hello and welcome to the Calm and Content Mind. This is a tutorial on how to make butter slime with Activator Recipe. And first, let's make the Borax Activator Recipe. First, you'll need some borax powder, a measuring cup, 1 teaspoon. Add 1 teaspoon of borax powder to a cup and add 8 ounces of warm water, warm enough to melt the borax powder. Stir until completely dissolved and you no longer can see any of the borax powder in the water. Allow to cool and pour the mixture into any container of your choosing. I like this large container. It's actually a succulent watering container, but you can also use a smaller container. I found these containers at the dollar store. They're very easy to fill and they're very inexpensive. Go ahead and set your activator aside. Now we're going to jump into how to make the butter slime. You will need a 1/2 cup measuring cup, a bowl and some sort of mixing utensil, white all-purpose glue, your activator, and some sort of air-dry clay, which will give that buttery texture to the slime. You'll also need some sort of container to hold your slime. Start by adding 1/2 cup of white glue to the bowl. Give the glue a stir to prepare for the activator. Now add a little bit of activator and stir, and we're going to be repeating this process for quite a while. Now I'm going to pause here for a moment and explain that I'm going to show you the full process of how long it takes to start activating the slime, the stirring process, all the way until it is completely ready to be stored. A lot of slime video tutorials skip through and do jump cuts through the process of making the slime, but I just want to show you how long it takes and what the slime looks like and how it transforms as you add the activator. Probably the most important tip I can give you when you're making slime with borax activator is to not add too much all at once, or else the glue congeals and becomes a big unworkable blob. Off camera, I'm going to time how long it takes to make the slime from start to finish, and I'll add that into the notes in the description below. If you don't want to sit through watching the whole slime making process, I will add a timestamp here to when we're all finished. I really like using these silicone mats when I make slime because the bowls sort of slide around on the table and surface you're using. So the mat is a nice traction for the bowl as you mix. So the process is pretty straightforward. As you'll see, I'll be adding small amounts of activator and then stirring for a while to fully incorporate the activator into the polymers of the glue. You'll see that I'm stirring, but I'm also pulling in an upward motion and always cleaning the bowl, and also I'll be mixing quite vigorously because I found the faster and more vigorous you actually mix it, it helps incorporate the activator even more. So in later video, it'll look like I'm actually fast forwarding the video, but it's actually me just really vigorously mixing the activator into the glue just to really get it well incorporated. You'll see at this point, it's still kind of watery, but there is some action happening and it's becoming a little more congealed, a little more solidified, but we just take it slow and keep at it and trust the process. You'll notice that I not only mix the slime mixture, but I also pat it like up and down vigorously with the spatula. And it looks like I'm almost hitting it. So I'm going up and down vigorously as well as around in a circular motion. I just found that it really helps incorporate it better if you can get it from all angles, like circular around and then up and down into the middle. Because the best way to get the activator incorporated into the polymers of the glue is to pull the slime, but we're not going to pull it until a little bit later when we take it out of the bowl. But you'll see my stirring process here. It's perfectly fine if your slime starts to look chunky or like cottage cheese. That is all part of the process. You're on the right track, you're doing great. Keep at it. As you near the end of the slime making, you will notice it gets very hard to mix and thicken up and enters what I call the spiderweb stage, where the slime begins to stick to the side of the bowl and look almost stringy and what I call spider webs. So it's going to feel really hard to mix the slime at this point, but you got to really use your muscles and switch hands if you need to, because this is when you're almost done and you're almost ready to pull the slime out of the bowl. So keep adding the activator, keep mixing, and you're getting really close here to it being finished. When it starts to get really thick and hard to mix, this is when I start to pull up and down. Grab some on the utensil, come up and then down, up and down. The pulling process is truly the best way for the activator to get in the polymers. So this is mimicking what we're going to be doing shortly in our hands. So I'm doing it in the bowl, pulling as much as I can up and down. So don't get too frustrated if you can't mix it in a circular motion. It gets really, really stiff. So up and down is a great technique to use. Okay, now we're ready to get it out of the bowl. So you'll see here, I'm going to keep mixing it around. And what I'm trying to do is just pull all the glue together and pull it away from the plastic bowl. So it should be almost completely, if not totally clean when it comes out. So it's very satisfying as well. So I keep pulling and then putting it into a ball, and you'll see I'm going to pop it right out of the bowl in a moment. Okay, we have arrived. We pulled the slime out of the bowl. Very good getting this far. Now you can easily wipe the spatula clean. The slime is almost ready. Now we're moving into the hand pulling stage of the slime. And when I make slime with my clients in session, I always use a life metaphor for slime, which is sometimes life can feel so sticky and icky and gross and difficult, and like nothing's ever going to get better and nothing is good going to come out of this. And that is very much like making slime. So when you make slime, it looks impossible, like nothing good is going to come out of it. It's just this giant mess. But if you stick with it and you don't give up and you try your techniques, you will in fact end up with a nice ball of workable slime. And just like life, and when we go through difficult times, moving through them is really important. Even though it's uncomfortable and feels terrible, on the other side, there is good waiting for us. So if anyone out there is a therapist or works with children or teenagers, even young adults in any way, I have found that slime has been the most amazing way to connect and also build rapport if you're just meeting someone for the first time. And I use this metaphor as we are talking and working together. And every time I've noticed my clients feel very proud of themselves for sticking through the icky part and getting to the part where the slime is extremely satisfying. So just a little tip, if you do work with young folks, that slime is a great activity, and also the metaphor is nice to incorporate as you're working together. So if you've never made slime before, one good thing to know is the quicker you work with it, the faster it pulls off of you. It's kind of like Borax, where if you put your hand slowly into the slime, it kind of melts and gets soft. But if you work with it quickly, it's just more workable. So I always tell the clients I work with to work with it quickly and use it to clean off your hands. So you don't have to use a towel or anything like that. You actually use the slime to clean it off of your hands and any surfaces. So you'll see as I'm entering the final stages of the slime making process here that I'm continuously using the slime to pull other slime off my hands. Okay, we are just about done with our slime. I'm just gathering little pieces from around my mat, and I'm using the slime to pull pieces off my skin. And you'll see my hands get really clean. So it's a great technique to use. You got the slime stuck on your nails or your fingers. When I'm satisfied with the texture of the slime, I roll it into a ball and then I put it on the mat and I add activator and kind of rub it in. And then I press holes into the slime and I pull it up, and then I start to pull more activator through the slime if needed in this pulling process. So this is where the slime is very workable, getting really nice and soft, and it's not really getting stuck to my fingers anymore. And I'm adding the final bit of activator and pulling it through. Anytime you add more activator, always do the pull process to get this activator fully into the glue. One of the most satisfying things I like to do with slime is pull it up like this, and I do what's called a drizzle, where I pull the slime up and then let it drizzle down. It's just so satisfying to watch and feel. So I'm just showing you a little bit of that here, and also what the slime should look like at this stage. So when you pull it up, it shouldn't break quickly, it shouldn't snap. You should be able to pull it up quite far, and it almost looks like a big window. But we have one more final step, and that is to add the air dry clay. Adding clay to your slime at this point gives it what we call a butter texture. And the air dry clay is not sticky, but it does feel kind of like marshmallow. It's very fluffy, and it stabilizes the slime and just gives it like just a notch up. It's not just the activator in the slime, but now you're adding this clay, and it gives it such a nice fluffy soft texture. And butter slime is one of my favorite slimes to work with. It's great for beginners, so I always make a big batch of butter slime. You'll see all I did with the clay is make a little ball of it and put it in the middle and then start to pull it through, much like the activator. Pulling new ingredients through your slime is the best way to incorporate them, whether it's a scent or a color or some add-ons like bingsu beads. So the pulling method is really great way to get everything well incorporated. So here you'll see that I've removed the silicone mat so I can play with my slime right on my counter surface, which is a non-porous surface. Please beware to not play with slime on wood. The wood is very porous and it sucks the moisture right out of the slime, and it just gets stuck in there, and it's just not pretty. So I made that mistake before, and so a surface that is solid like a countertop is preferred, or a laminate of some kind. So here I'm showing you the texture of the slime, what it should look like now that the clay is fully incorporated. It should look almost a little spiderwebby when you pull it, when you do the slime windows, as I call them. Here, you should see how soft it is and how buttery and how well it drizzles. So this is really the texture you're shooting for right here. It shouldn't be sticking to your fingers. Of course, you're going to get a little slime here and there stuck to your nail or fingers, but it should be very satisfying to work with. You will see, as an example, if I really slowly work with the slime, it will start to sink into my fingers and my hand, but if you quickly work with it, you can pull the slime off. There's a very fine line between a nice, soft, and workable slime texture to it being over-activated. So if you need to add more activator, do so. Just do it really slowly and little by little, and find the texture that you're most satisfied with. Doesn't this look like a cute ball of mozzarella cheese? I really like to lay the slime flat, poke holes in it like this, and then, as you've seen before, pulling it upward. My audio wasn't working really good on my camera, so you can't hear, but this technique of pushing your fingers in like this and then pulling up creates really good air bubbles, and you flip it over onto itself, and then you come down and scrunch it with your fingers, and it makes a lot of clicks and pops, and it's just really satisfying if that's something you're into with the slime. I'm very much into the auditory piece of the slime, so just a little technique there to use to get that sensory piece from the slime. Well, I want to say thank you so much for joining me today on how to make butter slime. I hope this video was helpful. I hope you enjoyed watching the start to finish of the activation of the slime. I had a hard time finding that online, so maybe that will be helpful for somebody out there. If you work with young people, again, slime is such an amazing activity to do together. When you're all finished with your slime here, I like to add a little activator to my container, give it a shake, and then I store my slime in the container. Make sure it's airtight. This will stay good for up to a year. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you on the next video.